let's stop and do it so that we don't have to wait for questions at the end. I think it's better to address them if you have them. I'm assuming, does everybody know what Earthships are? If you no, that's right. So what they are basically eco buildings made mostly of recycled materials. Primarily used tires, cans, and bottles. And then of course other kind of trash can get mixed in there too. I'm showing this first photo just to give you, these are some of the earliest ones, like on the upper left-hand corner. When TZ and I first moved to New Mexico in 1989, he had just finished that building up there and he called it the Castle. I have to apologize, I could never figure out how to do a slideshow. So this is going to be clunky. This is a portrait I did of Mike in that building. So you can see there's like giant banana trees growing from downstairs all the way up to the second floor. This is basically, well, let me say how I met Mike. We moved to New Mexico. I was just reading the local paper, and there was an article in there about Mike and these Earthships, which he had started actually in the mid-70s, but it took time for them to really start to take off. So in the article, he was saying, if you want to volunteer or learn about these, just come knock on my door. And I did. He gave his address and knocked on his door and said, hey, Mike, I want to work for you. And it turned out he needed a photographer. I do photography as well, for his first book. So we made a deal that I would do the photography for his first book, which is titled Earthship 1, in trade for a set of plans, because it was our dream to build our own house. So
Michael Reynolds is
he's
the inventor of the Earthship. Right?
He's the inventor of the Earthship.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why New Mexico? Why did he install himself there?
Well, I can tell you, probably for the same reason for us. It was very free. It was the Wild West. Mm-hmm. You could do whatever you want. And we got in just under the radar because when we got there, we were able to build with no permits, no inspections. They were just starting to do inspections. And in fact, we were assigned an inspector. And I called him once. He came out. He didn't even know what an Earthship was. And he's looking at the wall and asked me, what kind of foundation do you have? And I go, there's no foundation. He goes, oh, okay. What's that over there? You know, it's like, that's the end of the conversation. And I go, okay, I'm never calling this guy again. And we actually built 5 buildings on that property. Mm-hmm. It's changed now. It's become more restrictive. But why New Mexico, I would say, is the freedom. Yeah. So one of Mike's favorite quotes is, wasps, beavers, birds, they all make their own homes, but humans don't, for the most part. And that's his philosophy is, I'm going to make a book, I'm going to make a system of building that anybody can do, basically with little to no building experience. So that's the fundamental idea of this. And also liberating yourself from rent and from utilities. I mean, his idea, the ideal Earthship is off the grid. You're making your own electricity. It's catching water, so you're harvesting water from the roof. Your wastewater is actually feeding plants so that you don't have as much financial burden in your life. And I can say, you know, we were 27 years old, newly married, just had a baby, and started building an Earthship. And yeah, it took 5 years. And we struggled because I like doubled the size of the thing. I didn't follow the plans that he gave me, by the way. And bit off more than I could chew, and then we couldn't finish it. And the years were going by. We had it up for sale twice, as is. It's like, please, somebody just buy this, I'm gonna run away. And we just kept going. But at the end of the story, we owned our house with no debt at 32 years old. So the rest of our life, that building has been serving us, as opposed to where most people are giving such a huge portion of their work efforts just to pay rent, just to have home, you know, and that's what Mike is trying to open people up to. So I don't have photos from our actual building experience, but I'm going to quickly go through what the basic process is. And this is a video you can find on YouTube. It's called The Hut, H-U-T, it's a hut. It's the smallest version of an Earthship that he's created. And it's actually a really smart idea if you're thinking of building one. Do one of these first, learn all the mistakes. In fact, he told me this 35 years ago, Paul, do something small, move into it, stop paying rent, and then build the bigger building. And I didn't listen to him, and it was a nightmare. But this is how you start. We had land that looked just like that. You lay down tires in the shape of your outer walls, and you start digging. And the dirt that comes from the ground goes into the tires. So,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the tires filled with air?
No, they're going to be filled with earth.
So you fill them inside it?
Yeah. You're going to see that in the, I think, the next photo. I mean, yeah, here's, here's two people with sledgehammers, but usually it's a two-person job. My brother came out and helped me do this. One person is shoveling the dirt in the tire, and the other one is taking a sledgehammer and pounding it into the tire until the tire just literally, you know, expands. The soil, I mean, there's so many things to go into, so I don't want to get into tangents, but like the earth is ideal there for compacting. Whereas here on Crete, it's mostly rock, right? That's another thing. But these tires, once you pack them, I mean, you could literally lift them up and the dirt does not fall out. So it's essentially a rubber-coated adobe brick is what you're building. The tires are free. They're happy to see you come up with your truck and say, oh, I'll take all your used tires, because they have to pay a tax to throw those away. So you're using something that, you know, people don't want. So after the first course, which is on the ground, when you're going up, so that dirt doesn't bleed out on the corners, you put cardboard inside the bottom. And then you're able to shovel dirt. The other person's able to pound. And
I interrupt you for a second. I read
Yeah.
a lot of testimonies of people building Earthships saying that actually the tire part is the most tiring.
yeah,
It goes together, like it's the hardest part of the Earthship, and you have really to hold on to this part because the best is yet to come after that.
Yeah.
Is it true that it's...
You know, it depends on your character. I love pounding tires. I kid you not, I love digging ditches. I love mixing cement. I built our whole house mixing cement with a hoe in a wheelbarrow. And when the house was done, this is not a joke, Tizia bought me an electric mixer. It was like, how come I didn't have that 5 years ago? But we used it for other projects. So you can kind of get a feel, you lay them just like courses of bricks. You know, the one on top goes in the middle of two down below. And then you have these big holes created. And I'll show you how to start to fill that in. So what you do is you get a wheelbarrow and you mix some mud and straw, and you make big balls of adobe and you just throw it into those areas.
Is that Patricia?
No, these so far these are ones I just picked off the internet because I didn't have our photo album, which is in the States. And I'm sorry I didn't know how to do slideshows. Oh, come on, are you serious? Here. There we go. And then you take cans or bottles and you shove them in there where that big ball of adobe just went. And what you're doing is just basically filling out to get plus or minus level. But what's wonderful is it never is level and it's never smooth. Even when you plaster it, you can still see on our walls the bulges of tires. And it feels kind of like a ceramic pottery, you know?
Why did you fit in cans inside the walls?
It's just to take space.
Okay.
So,
You fill them with something or smash them just...
yeah, no, you just pinch them a little. You take a can and you pinch it a little so that, because if you put it in round, it would pop right out. And if you pinch it a little and shove it in, then it gets locked in. So there's kind of the more, one of the goals also is to use less concrete. Like here in Crete, or in Greece in general, what I'm seeing is a lot of concrete, which is not the most eco product to do. So an Earthship can be extremely light in concrete. So like filling with adobe, doing adobe plastering, you can use earth for the floors. It's just a lot more labor intensive. So we kind of did a hybrid. We did earth where we could and did cement where we needed to.
But can you use other materials instead of concrete, like cob or... Can you use...
Yeah, cob, yeah, for sure. It's just to fill it in. The tires, you know, tires are about that wide. I don't know how many, it's just the wall is massive. And then you just need to fill those pockets, and you're going to see in a future slide how it gets plastered over. But the cans you see up top are actually, those are air pockets. You're not using a lot of concrete. You know, it's just a little bit of joint mortar between the cans.
Where do you get so many cans?
Well, at restaurants, bars, you know, you go and talk to the waitress or somebody and say, hey, can you save all the cans for me and I'll give you $5 a bag or something. And then later, Taos actually had, amazingly, a recycling center open. And then people just, like myself, we just jump over the barrier and go get cans because everyone's delivering cans there and bottles.
It can also be bottles.
Yeah,
Bottles or...
glass bottles and plastic bottles.
Okay.
They're using plastic bottles now. All it is is a form and an air pocket. It's just an air, you know. If you look at a honeycomb, you know, it's all those points to create a void. So it's kind of that same principle.
So at the top you want the air, but at the bottom there's no air.
No, well, no, on the bottom you're doing just these massive walls. What's happening up top is those are the forms for a bond beam. You'll see there's 2 rows of cans like this far apart, and then they pour concrete in the middle. As opposed to using plywood to make forms, you use cans, and then, oh, there we go. I think you'll see some photos that'll address that. This is kind of a, anyways, then you take chicken wire or plaster lath, and you can literally nail it right into the earth to tack it against the tires, and you can nail right into the tires as well.
Why do you do that? Why do you put these wires?
I'll show you in this next photo. Because then you start to plaster, take concrete, and now your earth cliff or your, like the photos you saw were just tires, but sometimes it's just earth, like you've dug a hole and you've got to cover that earth. You can do it just like this and start building up layers of plaster, concrete. And then, so here you see how those cans create the form for a bond beam. This particular model, he's building a dome over it. I'm going to show you later a building that we built on our property with the same technique here. The other thing is these buildings keep evolving over time, you know. His whole career has been about, I guess, making mistakes, experimenting, finding, oh yeah, this doesn't work, and it keeps evolving. I would say this building here, which is fairly recent, really has a lot of good things happening in terms of insulation, stability, and durability. So here he's making two domes, an inner dome and an outer dome, and that in between will get filled with insulation. And that stovepipe is actually just ventilation. There'll just be a little cork so the building can breathe. But you can see, like all of this earth in the foreground is going to get, oh, I guess I have a pointer here. All of this earth is eventually going to get dug out so that you can walk up into the building. And then you can see it's, I would say, easily 6 feet down in the earth. And then all the tires up to here are going to get backfilled with earth. So it's like a cave. If you go into a cave, it's always, I don't know in Celsius, but it's like 55 degrees. What is a cave? Does anyone know? In Celsius?
Normally it's 12 degrees. The water depends if it's a mountain cave where it is located, but from what I remember,
It's cold.
but the whole year.
It's cold, but it's not that cold. In other words, if you had a little wood-burning stove, it'd be easy to bump it up to, or a little solar gain.
Can I ask, between the two domes, what do you use for as insulation?
Well, they're going to use typical fiberglass, you know, insulation. But you can use other things. You can use, I think,
Is it called rock wool?
rock wool. Yeah, exactly. That's what they're going to use, is rock wool. Anything that you could use in a building, you could use there. There's foam. It's expensive. It's very high quality, but a company could come in with their hose and spray foam in there. But again, you're trying to do as much as you can by yourself and not hire other people to do things. So you have to kind of weigh, is the efficiency going to be so much more that it makes sense to hire somebody to do foam? Or what if I just go to the store and buy my own rock wool and do it? Yeah. And then you'll see in these photos, I mean, on our building as well, people would just show up and volunteer for a week, you know, because they want to learn. And I would do the same thing. If I came up to a situation that I didn't know, like what's the next step, I would go to somebody else's job site and work for them for a while for free, learn what I needed to learn, and then come back and do it on my place. So, but again, there was a lot of these buildings going up at the same time. So here, they're tacking on insulation on the outside, rigid foam insulation. And the cement plaster is on the inside and the outside. I just saw a video. They're now building these domes, the skeleton, on the side of the job site. So you're not like up on ladders working, and then they just move it over to the building and drop it on. I thought that was pretty cool. And then here it's fully finished and plastered. They make a little lip all the way around the dome, and it drains into a cistern that's underneath here. So they're catching all their water right there. You know what? I think that winds up being the actual wood stove. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not an air vent.
How big is this building inside?
12 feet. So, what, 4 meters?
Okay.
4 meters round.
That's what you call
The hut.
The hut.
The hut. And it's actually got 2 levels. There's a loft. The bedroom is up there in the dome. And there's a glass bottle wall here. And then the front door is sliding glass doors. So that's your light and air. And solar gain heat, yeah.
This one you were telling me earlier that the cost of it is about $15,000.
No, 1,500. 1,500.
Okay.
I'm remembering, again, on YouTube, Google Earthship, the hut. And at the end, they list all the materials they use and the price.
Okay.
If I'm remembering right, it was about $1,500.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a great way to learn all the systems. So now, this is the house TZ and I built, the Earthship. Where I got into, I don't know how you would characterize it, a problem with Mike Reynolds, is this is the second one ever that did not have sloped glass. Usually his buildings all have sloped glass in the front.
What does slope mean?
Slope is the glass is like this instead of like this. For maximum solar gain.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is great in the winter, but in the summer when you don't want to be making heat, you're making heat. So that just didn't make sense to me. Also, the plants grow and they get smushed right up into the glass. You know, they don't.
How do you cover it?
You don't. This is the problem. It's like they'd have blinds on the inside because anything on the outside with the winds we get, and you can't really do a patio cover that makes sense. I mean, nothing makes sense with the slope. And it leaks. He wouldn't talk to me for like 12 or 15 years until he started doing them vertical. Now he's doing them vertical, and we're talking again. I just ran into him Any architects in the room? Because, well,
So this facade you have with all the glasses,
yeah,
its position is supposed to be south,
it's pointed south,
full south.
full south. And you'll see in the interior photos, I think our ceilings are 12 feet high, so it's pretty tall in the front of the house where the glass is. And we get more than enough solar gain. I mean, we have snow on the ground there. We have major winter for 5 months. And oftentimes we have the windows and the skylights open because it's too hot in there, even though it's freezing outside.
Does it make any sense to have the same direction when you are, for example, when you will do it in Crete?
No.
Because the temperatures here are,
You would
even the winter are very high. So
right, you would point it north. And there's a video that somebody did in Adelaide, Australia, where it's super hot, and they just turned it around. So their windows are pointing north. Yeah.
Wait, in Australia?
Yeah. They have these Earthships all over the world.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean they have to point it south?
Because it's the southern hemisphere.
Well, away from the sun. Thank you.
I got confused.
Yeah, I did too, actually.
So windows will have facing only one direction.
Yeah. So the whole house, in essence, is like a cave. There's no windows, only skylights. We have 7 skylights throughout the house, so you have daylight coming in, and they open, so you have airflow. But in terms of actually like windows, the only windows are in the south. And then you're underground. A lot of great things about being underground, like sound. It is so quiet down there. You know, you just go down there, it's like thump, you know. You can see, here's our driveway, and the house is, you just see the top third of the house. So even on windy days, like wind just blows right over us. You can kind of step out and you're down in a protected area. The other thing too, when we moved out here on this mesa, I think we had 3 or 4 neighbors in that whole kind of area we were in. But now it's built up, but we still don't see them because we're down in a hole, you know. You have a sky view. You look at the sky instead of looking at your neighbor. The other things that I would recommend, like the property that we bought already had electricity under the ground. No poles or anything, which was really nice. And instead of doing a whole solar system 35 years ago, we didn't do any solar until 20 years later. And we did a grid tie, which is out by the road, and it's attached to the grid. So we don't have batteries to deal with. And our meter runs in 2 directions. So when we're making electricity, our electric meter runs backwards. The numbers get smaller. Mm-hmm. And when we're using electricity, it goes up. So we're making about 70% of our electricity here. Yeah.
So you're not 100% off-grid?
We're not off-grid at all.
It was your choice. There are people with Earthship who are completely off-grid.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think I would go off-grid because things have become more efficient, less expensive. But 35 years ago, you know, the battery technology, all the technology was not very advanced. If I was building today, I think I would go off-grid. Yeah, for sure. But what we did was this.
Did you have wind power? Wind?
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't do wind here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you were saying that it's quite windy, so.
It is. Silica, If I can out Silka. She's our next door neighbor.
I live in a big house. I get
You'll-
the winds, and I still pay mortgage because I didn't build an Earthship.
You're going to see Silka's house in one of my photos coming up. But yeah. So this is the inside of our house. And like the typical Earthship, he has a planter in the front by the glass where you can grow food. Our experience is growing like tomatoes, growing food has its own problems. I'm a believer in build a greenhouse next door and grow your food there. We do grow like kale, Swiss chard, some green leafy things, but like tomatoes, you get white flies, you get other things. Anyways, we planted like fig trees, flowering jasmine, bougainvillea, other things. I mean, we had a giant lemon tree in there that went all the way to the top. You know, we finally got rid of it and planted something else. But it's just wonderful to live with, you know, garden happening in your house. The other building, we have banana trees, and we get bananas in the winter when there's snow outside. I mean,
And what's the purpose of this plant bed inside the house?
well, again, and I'm not here to criticize or promote Earthships, but his whole thing is like survival. Like you're going to be able to live and make your own food and do everything like in here. Yeah.
And does the wastewater go into?
The new Earthships, they do.
Okay.
Ours doesn't. Our Earthship is really basic and simple. I was telling this to Christos. He hadn't developed all these systems that are actually, in my point of view, complicated and take a lot of maintenance. And anyways, we have a really simple Earthship. Yeah. And just building techniques, like, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but you see the cement floor, how it has these lines? Because that's, I would make a form, that's how much cement I could mix and pour in one day. And then the next day I'd come and do the next one, and just the next one, and it just kind of radiates out. And then the concrete, we stained it with rose fertilizer, which is like $10 for a bag. And if you read on the bag of the rose fertilizer, it's full of iron. And it says, be careful, it stains concrete. It's like, oh, okay. So I put that in a 5-gallon bucket with hot water and just mop it on, leave it sit for a while, mop it all up, and yeah, it stains concrete, beautifully brown. Kind of looks like leather, and it's irregular.
Ours was the wooden floor.
Yeah. And just to point out some of the other elements of recycling, like this table here, and actually that table, and 2 other tables that I gave away to somebody. On one of TZ and I's first dates, we passed this hotel in Santa Monica that was being demolished. And I saw these boards, it's redwood. It was the fascia board, and they're just thrown in the trash. So of course I jumped into the dumpster and got the wood and brought it all the way to New Mexico to make tables with. Let's see here. Oh, something else to, maybe you can spot this. If you notice these vigas, these trees, I went to the forest, I got a permit. That I got a permit, it was $90. You can cut all the trees you want for building your house. But they're grayed out because they spent like 3 or 4 winters without a roof. And the year that I had the money to finish the roof, we also built this part. So this wood up here is kind of clean, and all the other wood, all the vigas are grayed out because they were left in the weather for 3 or 4 years. And people always go, "Oh, where'd you get those old vigas?" And it's like, no. They were just left out. Oh, come on. Slide show me. This is...
I didn't get something.
Yeah.
Did you dig to get that deep?
Yeah, I'm going to show you in the next 2 photos from now. You'll see how deep we are. We did dig. We had a tractor come. I'm sorry this isn't sized well. And this is, so he talks about his house, the rooms being U's. They're kind of U-shaped, like this is a U, the kitchen's a little U, there's a studio, and then the bedroom is buried all the way in the back. So it's completely away from the glass of the south side. So yeah, that's our living room. Kitchen, there's like a studio. The bathroom is behind the purple wall. And then, let's see here.
What is the size of the whole house, the interior?
You know, it's like,
It's like 150 meters square.
I think it's 150 meters square.
It's an American size of house.
But then we found, you know, we did a trade, Artesia did a trade for this old door.
We traded a lot.
Yeah, in New Mexico there's a lot of bartering that goes on.
So what did you trade?
Well, the reason I'm laughing is she kind of got us because we wound up trading our money. But we did a lot of trading with people that was a real trade, like either I do a service or Artesia does a service and we get a product. So
I guess you have the community there to do that. So
yeah.
people were aligned with this idea of exchanging services and
Yeah.
They do that with food, with olive oil,
yes.
Yeah, I've been paid in olive oil. Yeah.
Something like that.
So to answer your question, you see that ledge where there's a drum and these xylophones? From right there down to the bottom is how deep we are underground. That's just an earth cliff that's plastered over. And then like that first photo of the guy standing there with tires, that's right there. That's our first row of tires sitting on the land. And again, you can see them bulging out there. And our wonderfully patinaed vigas. This stove is an old yodel. It's not a very, it's beautiful, I love it. It kind of looks like the Easter Island heads. But it's not like an efficient wood burning stove. That's our only heater in the house for years.
And we got it in a program.
And I won that in a poker game, yeah. And then later, you know, things happen in stages, like, and then I got all this flagstone and I put down a stone floor. But for years, it was just concrete, painted concrete floor. And then little by little, we kept upgrading.
What are those white?
Those are crystal bowls, like these Tibetan bowls. But they're made of crystal. And there's a gong here. Artesia would do sound baths. You know, people would lay down on yoga mats and she would do this sound performance. I want to show you this one because, again, it kind of shows the recycling spirit. Our light fixtures throughout the house are these, I don't know, it's a gallon tomato cans. You know, it's just a
Which one?
tomato sauce, the light fixture up there.
The ceiling, okay.
Yeah, these I found in a thrift store.
Okay.
But this is just a can of tomatoes that I cut the thing out and stuck it up there, and there's a light in there. So those were throughout the house in the beginning. In the bathtub, I don't think I have a photo. Oh, I do have a photo of the bathroom. But I just want to show you this, what's happening here with the light. You can see the sun pouring in, and there's snow out on the ground. If you look through the window, there's snow.
Sorry, Paul, the exposition of the windows is supposed to be that you get the most of the light during the winter, so that
Yeah.
the sun can really come straight inside the windows.
That's what's happening here. So that sun is heating the concrete, the walls, which is a heat sink. It's grabbing the heat, and then at night, like in the morning, you wake up to go in the kitchen, your feet, it's still warm. It's holding the sun. And then here in the window, we have drying racks, because we would go in the forest and pick mushrooms, all kinds of goodies. Here's our mushroom.
So you would dry them up on the...
Yeah, and they just dry in the sun. We have plum trees, apricot, nectarine, and we would dry them here and then store them in our basement. Okay, a couple more. Here's the bedroom. And if you can imagine, we have this operable skylight above the bed, but it's completely, this is behind the kitchen. So it's like you're just totally hunkered in underground.
And this is the light from the kitchen?
No, that's a skylight. But I'm just saying it's not, this room, and it's bigger than it looks, but it's not exposed to the south windows.
Is that the morning light? In the morning, does it look like that?
You know, I'm not sure. It kind of looks like that all day because as long as there's light out, it's doing that. Because the skylight is flat, and you don't really see much directional thing. You just have light.
Okay. The skylight, do you use anything to cover it ever, or is it like always open and the light comes through?
No, it's covered with insulated glass, and it has a mechanism so we can open it for air.
I mean, in terms of letting the light in.
Yeah,
It's
always open. Yeah, I mean, we've pinned some blue fabric under there to kind of make it a little softer. Yeah, and I never built it, but I always wanted to do shutters. So if you really wanted to have no light, but didn't do it. And then one of my favorite rooms is the bathroom. And you can see we kind of left an exposed wall of the can and concrete, but otherwise it got covered with wood. And then if I can zoom in, is there? Oh, you can barely see it, it's up there. But our handles for hot and cold water are little pliers. Because it was cheaper than buying brass things. And we never upgraded it, you know. And even the spout for the water is a little piece of hose. It's like a garden spigot with a hose. There's our fixture right there.
But you were using the rainwater for the shower and the toilet?
No, that was another system that we never got around to. We don't collect water. We drilled a well. This is where I'm saying we kind of made choices of like what we could do. The rainwater, of course, keeps changing, and now people like our neighbor Rebecca, who is completely harvesting water, several times during the year she has to pay a company to come and fill her tank with water because there's not enough rain.
And she doesn't have a garden.
And she doesn't have a garden. And we were running a business out of our house, an Ayurvedic center, and we'd had clients coming, so we needed water. We actually did build a cistern, you're going to see later.
Okay. So you were using water from the spring, from the well?
From the well, yeah. And our well is 600 feet deep.
And it's not running out of water?
I hope not.
Because we asked the question for our own project in the La Cité Plateau to our
Yeah.
friend who is farmer there.
Yeah.
Would you recommend buying a land with a well? And she said, can you guarantee that these wells are going to stay like...
The answer is no.
No. So they're going to run out. You can drill deeper.
Well,
Because I
it's
believe,
true.
I believe in a mixed system.
Exactly.
Like collecting rainwater on one hand and having a well.
That's the best. That's the ideal. Yeah. Yeah. So what I added for the summertime, just to keep things even cooler in the house, is this skeleton, and I put shade cloth over this all summer. Just because a little bit of sun still does hit the glass, theoretically still creates heat. It's not that much. But it's just nice even on the eyes to be in a room that's a little subdued in the summer. But this house, people are convinced we have air conditioning because it's hot outside and it's cool in there. Because it's the Earth's temperature. Again, it's like a cave. And it's just unbelievably cool in there. The other thing that I'm changing is getting away from cement products, like the plaster. You see the orange building color? And that started to crack, and it's like, oh, am I gonna do a whole nother coat of cement to patch it? That's a job, by the way, that I can't do by myself. I have to hire a crew of people to do plastering. But woodworking, I do. That's what I do. So I'm covering all our buildings with an added, about 4 centimeters of rigid foam insulation, and then covering it with wood. And then, yeah, the maintenance is going to be oil the wood every couple of years. But that's what I'm working on now, is wrapping all the buildings in wood, which is a renewable material. And it's something you can do little by little and do it by yourself without a crew. And then just a few fun things like, well, fun. We had a dog taken by a coyote, so we wound up building a fence around the whole property, or our house. And I think there's 7 gates in all these directions, and each gate I designed and built differently. It's just kind of like an art project. This is the other thing I would say, our personal testimony about living in a creative space is it really changes your psyche. Not living in a square boxes, creating things that are whimsical and beautiful. That's our entry gate. And then this is our property. So I'm standing on the roof of the Earthship. By the way, with the berm, you can walk right up on the roof. And so can your neighbor's horses. When they got up, we had a horse on our roof because somebody let their horse, or got out, and there it was up on our roof. Actually, you see me, there I'm right there, my shadow. And these fences, TZ and I would go up in the forest in my beloved little truck that I miss so much, right there. God, I wish I had that truck here. And pick up dead aspens in the ground and just bring them home and build these fences, which create little environments. This was her treatment room. This is a hogan, another building that I built that I'll show you a couple of photos of. And then I'm standing on the Earthship. So again, this is the principle of using passive solar. This is our guest house. Just pointing glass to the south, it heats this entire building. And you can see, you know, we have some serious cold weather here.
But do you always have to have the building mostly buried?
This is not buried at all. This is a traditional timber, just built off the ground. Why did I do this? I was working for this artist, and he was building these domes, and he wound up giving me one. So I built this house around this dome that was a gift. And this is the inside of that building. So that's why I built this building like that.
So this is like a central room?
Yeah, this is a central room, which is, you know, the bedroom, obviously. And then there's a kitchen here and a bathroom off to the side. There's an entry room. These used to be exterior windows. These still are. These go to the back. But these windows now go into that greenhouse that I showed you with all the glass. So I added another room. Again, everything's in stages. When I was putting this slideshow together, I realized, you know, I do it, okay, 2012 or whatever, for this other project, and it takes like 2, 3, 4 years every building, because it's always happening, Tizia can tell you, very slow. She was just reminding me how slow I am in Kritza too, by the way. Here's a more recent photo I did of Mike. That's Mike Reynolds, the architect.
I want to ask you something about him.
Yeah.
How did he come up with this concept of Earthship? How did he get the revelation? Did he travel to some different countries to observe the way they are building?
You would think I know, but I don't. Okay. But I could tell you, because he's talked about them. If you look at the Anastasi cave dwellings, they always made their caves with a south facing. You never see them with a north face. So they knew, like, oh, there's this thing coming up through the sky that's going to heat me every day. I'm going to point my cave this way. You know, they're handmade caves. Yeah. So I'm sure that was an inspiration for him as well. And then here's Tizia in the forest collecting. Oh, she just took off. Tizia. There you are, picking up aspens for our fencing.
Yeah, each time we had a day off, what are you going to do?
Let's go to... And then go up there and get wood, get mushrooms. And we had a trailer. We used to just fill that up full of aspen.
For someone who would start such a crazy project, what would be the basic equipment you would recommend buying?
A truck, a chainsaw, sledgehammer,
A trailer for the truck?
Make good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trailer for the truck. You know, pretty basic stuff. And I would start small and go from A to Z on a project. You know, like before you guys came, we were talking about, because I don't know what the zoning, permitting, and all this stuff, obviously you guys do. But even if you call it a sculpture or a shrine, you know, build a little building, you know. If it doesn't have electricity or water coming to it, I don't see how the town can call it a home or a dwelling.
The first building you had was a phone. It was a phone.
I had a phone booth, because this is before cell phones. Yeah.
It was just a phone in the middle of nowhere that would ring. And we would arrive. The phone is ringing. Quick.
So tell me, we've been an hour. There's a 10-minute video, if you'd like to see, on Mike Reynolds talking. I think that's worth watching. And if you wanted to see, let me just show you one other technology that I worked with, which is earth bags. So in front of our house, a friend of mine, Kenny Quinn, who worked for Mike for years, still does, got into this earth bag thing, and here I am pounding earth bags to create a retaining wall and an outdoor kind of gazebo place to sit around. So the dirt, you can see my little electric jackhammer here. I'm just digging a hole into the cliff, and the dirt that I'm digging goes into these bags, and then I'm tamping it with a tamper. And then same thing, put chicken wire, lath, plaster. Kenny also makes houses like this. And here it is finished. I painted it black because I just wanted, the mesa is so intense, the light, that you want soothing things, including like black walls and shade. It's wonderful in the summer to go in there. And this fire pit is an old water pressure tank.
Jacuzzi?
No, it's a a cattle trough, you know, for cows.
Oh, okay.
But I keep it there, and I keep it really clean, and we do cold plunges. I'd go in there every day. And it's nice to have the elements. You know, Ayurveda is based on the 5 elements. And it's good to live with them like right there, fire, water, and of course we have earth, sky, and air. So it's, it's kind of symbolic as well. So that's that. Let me, 1 second here. I want to show you the cistern we built real quick too. I'll go real quick through this. Here's day 1. Tizia overseeing the backhoe, digging a hole. And then here's some neighbors and friends helping me, you know, put the pebble ground to this. So we're making a therapy pool. By this time, the other purpose of the fences is so neighbors don't see what I'm doing. Because by this time, there is permits required, inspections, all that stuff. But I still didn't do it. I just built fences and built with and behind the fence. And plus I knew all my neighbors, and I wasn't too worried about being outed. But there's no way I could build, quote unquote, a pool. So this is a cistern you're looking at. And I I mean, I don't know if you want to see each step of this, but I'm kind of skipping ahead. So it's basically concrete posts and filled in with glass bottles and block. Wherever I had a window, I used block. And then it's got that dome over it. Kind of speeding through here. And this is it done. So on the inside, we use blue plaster. And this in the center is the skylight. And it's just a hole. There is no glass. So if you're in there, and the water, by the way, is 100% heated with solar panels. There's no electric or gas heat. And it's like a jacuzzi. I mean, it's super warm. And Tizia would do water treatments, watsu, in there, basically like a water massage. And then this is a labyrinth we built on our property. But the most important part of this photo, there's Silka's house right there. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, let's do, actually, let me show you Mike Reynolds here. I'm going to show a very quick video first, and then we'll end with the Mike Reynolds. Oromesa Watsu. It's 1 minute and 20 seconds. I'm standing on the roof of that cistern. And Tizia is giving a watsu. Kind of a floating cranial sacral.
Could you do that in Chris, Patricia? Or you need a food specifically?
Well, you need the right temperature. You could do the vitamin C and some. Yeah. So it's like a protected. Yeah.
So this is 10 minutes long. I think it's good to hear his philosophy. He posted this, I think, a few days ago. Because it starts out saying where we're at in 2025. And then if you have more questions, we can talk.
Well, we wanted to bring you up to date on Earthship as it stands here at the beginning of 2025. So the 55 years of work in this direction has started to come of age here. I think everybody has seen the science experiment, 8th grade science experiment, where you take a piece of paper and sprinkle iron shavings on the top and put a magnet underneath, and boom, the iron shavings are all organized. I keep relating to that situation because
this AI tool will take your idea and create a complete book, complete with design, images, layout.
The natural phenomena of the magnetic field organizes the iron shavings without argument. I see that as analogous to housing, independent, sustainable housing for everyone that wants it or needs it. As organizing humanity. Right now, humanity is in chaos because so many people find it so hard to get housing. There's a housing crisis just all over the world, and of course all over the U.S. and here in Taos County, where Earthships were born. There's a housing crisis. Not only is there a housing crisis, the way we run housing with gas and electricity constantly needed, even if you have housing, your utilities are difficult, to say the least. So what I'm saying here in 2025 is, after 55 years, we've got the magnet to put under the piece of paper to organize the iron shavings. We have learned to do it. It's only taken 55 years because there's so many aspects to it, from regulations to water, power, sewage, thermal solar dynamics, heating, materials, details, cost, and maintenance. I mean, it's got to be maintenance free as well, or damn near. So there are many different determinants that have required our attention in the last 55 years to get Earthships to where they are. Now, we can still do anything we've done before all over the world, but I'm focusing now, and I see the need to focus on making that magnet available that organizes those iron shavings. I want a product out there, like Henry Ford had Model T Fords. He started making them. One came off of the assembly line every 93 seconds or something. They were the same car. Now that housing has become a machine, in my eyes, it's got to be made almost on an assembly line basis to make it economical, to make it work. There are too many things going on in an Earthship to make a custom design and try to fit all of the systems into it. The systems are very much like the systems of your body, the nervous system, the digestive system, the circulatory system. They all make your body work, and your body is a result of that. Well, the Earthship systems all make the Earthship machine work, and the Earthship is simply a result of that. You go probably design custom Earthship and force all these things in it. It's almost as ridiculous as trying to design a body the way you want it and then forcing all these systems into it. So this is the situation that we're in right now, is we've got a motto we call the refuge. We're making them as fast as we can. We're making drawings for them, and we're making seminars, academies, and field studies and intern programs, all these different ways to get people exposed to this, to get them to understand this. Then do it however you want. We've got ex-students and employees all over the world doing their version of this. We don't really franchise it or patent it because it's not about owning it and money, like the Indians, the Native Americans say that you cannot own the earth. I don't think you can own these natural phenomena applications that we have. They shouldn't be owned. They should be available to everyone. And that's what we're allowing to happen. And We're looking now at trying to make as many refuge Earthships as possible, studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, just like Henry Ford made the Model Ts and just got them out there. There were no roads. There were dirt roads. There were no gas stations. They hauled the gas. There are many things about the refuge Earthship people may say, what if, what about this, what about that? That's not the issue anymore. The issue is that these machines are needed. Humans need these machines. If independent, sustainable housing is made available to humans all over the world, then it will organize humanity like the magnet organized the iron shavings. And if humanity is organized not by democracy or religion or any other kind of political or spiritual thing, but if it's organized by pragmatic need, pragmatic application of sustenance for people, then that will do a lot toward affecting crime and health issues, and of course housing issues and energy issues. It will organize us as a species so that we can then go on to be what we were supposed to be. Right now we're just struggling for survival, and yeah, some people, you know, a few billionaires have got it made, but you cannot.
Did Harvard University just find a way to restore crystal clear 20/20 vision without
sleep at night and be comfortable in this world? Really? Unless everybody else is. That's all there is to it. Yeah, you can block out the fact that as you're eating caviar and going to a black tie dinner, that 10 million other people are starving or without a home or freezing or whatever. It just can't be that way. And so where we're taking what we've learned over 55 years now is into a very simple machine called the Refuge Earthship that stays at 70 degrees almost in any climate, makes its own power, harvests its own water, contains and treats its own sewage, produces food. I'm doing it right now. I'm producing kale and spinach and romaine and tomatoes as we speak. You know, I'm living with them as they grow, not to mention bananas and grapes and strawberries and all kinds of other things. So we're seeing ourselves that this basically fixes us, you know what I mean? It fixes us. It organizes us. I believe that it's very possible that this type of living on this planet that we call the Earthship concept, but we don't really care what it's called, independent, sustainable housing can organize humanity on this planet to the point where damn near all of our problems can begin to be addressed, and it softens the life on this planet, how we relate to the planet and each other. So this is not just sustainable housing for sustainable housing's sake. This is a method of living that we want to share, that we want to teach, and that we want to produce so that we can allow it to organize humanity as they try to exist on this planet. Thank you, and stay tuned for more in 2025.
He's 80 years old, huh?
He's 80?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Estimated he's 80 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm?
Which says 2025 with the American accent.
Yeah.
2025.
2025.
She's English, so you know she's a little bit small.
I know.
When she hears American speaking, she's a bit like, you know, guys.
Yeah. So, do you have any other questions? Yes.
I'm wondering, so you were in the US and Mark was in the US, and the system, I guess, probably works maybe well for all around the US.
All over the world. He builds these all over the world. Like when there's a disaster in Haiti, you know, people went there, his crews went there and started teaching them how to build houses. The tsunami in India, South India, they went there. They kind of go around the world, and he still does that. There's groups that go to wherever there's disasters and builds and teaches people.
And is there maybe some flexibility in terms of materials that you...
Absolutely, yeah. And if you noticed, like he says, I don't even care what you call it. You know, the Earthship, I would say when he was younger and more rigid about his designs, like he was really hard on me when I didn't follow his designs. I don't think he cares anymore. It's just make it sustainable and work for you. And of course, adapt with what you have. Like I'm looking here, and what I see are amazing stone ruins that are just begging to be remodeled and adapted to, well, again, here, you're not looking for heat. It's not like you need solar gain. In other words, tires are indigenous to the whole world, but especially in America, there's, you know, piles and piles of tires. So that's, I think, part of the thing. It's like, hey, use what's right in front of you and it's free. And here we have a lot of rock. And plastic bottles. Let me show you what people are doing with plastic bottles in Mike Reynolds' world, you know. Yeah, use what's right here. I mean, this, let's see. Well, that might all be glass, but they do this also with plastic. I know it. I'm just seeing if I have.
Are they seismic resistant, Earthships? That's the main concern here.
You know, if you go to earthship.com.
Mm-hmm. I know the answer because I looked at for the answer.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
So what's the answer? It is.
They are. Yeah.
It is, but I wanted to ask you if ever you had a more interesting answer than what I found.
No, I don't.
The fact that it's buried, basically, part of it is buried, and that you have this system of tires on the wall to make it an elastic, flexible system that resists very well to the shaking of the earth.
Yeah.
It's been built in many seismic areas, and it has proven to be really resistant from what I gather.
Yeah.
Because this is a big concern for the present people. And you can see that here, all the structure of the houses are mostly conceived around the principle of seasons.
Yeah.
So people would ask, yes, but what if there is an earthquake?
Yeah. Well, I'm still kind of impressed with the abandoned ruins I see, how well they're still standing. You know, what's this, I mean, they've been through earthquakes, right? I mean,
so you were thinking about the possibility of somebody owning that land and the ruin and the walls that have not fallen and then building on top of that?
Right, with cans. And if you want a bigger place, because a lot of those are small buildings, people want more space, you know, you could do an Earthship tire walls you could integrate the ideas and principles to what's already existing. That was what I was thinking.
And I think that before modern architecture, with all the cement and the plastic paints and everything, every area had a way of building.
Building,
yes.
Oh, building.
Using the material we had. I mean,
Yeah.
here people used stone. In other places they use straw and mud.
Right.
I mean, that is a way to learn from what is before capitalism, before...
Absolutely.
or even in capitalism, because those ruins you say are not very old, are our grandmother's houses.
Okay.
Some of them.
Yeah.
So, I think that, and that was my question, how flexible is the Earthship combined with other methods, tribal methods and ancient architectural knowledge and yeah.
I think it's should be very flexible. I mean, you know, like these bottle walls, they're not load bearing. You're still essentially doing post and beam, and that's filler. So if you have an existing ruin where, you know, chunks of wall are gone, it still could be, I mean, I think they're beautiful the way they are, but they could be more creative by adding some of these elements. And ultimately, I don't know, in my mind, when I go through in La City, you know, there's so many abandoned buildings. It's so sad. And I thought, you know, if I was 27 and here, you know, I would do that. And then it catches on. It's hard to be the first one or the second or maybe the third, but then all of a sudden, you know, there's a momentum that happens.
I think Amalie, the concept of the Earthship is not really about the building as we see it, what you build or what you build. It's more about, as you said, passive solar system.
Yeah.
So this you can decline it in 100 ways with what you have available. The water circuit, also trying to harvest water and make sure that it goes through a filtering system, natural filtering system.
And the recycling.
And the recycling, yeah.
Yeah.
So based on these principles, you can do whatever you want in the end. It doesn't need to look like most.
No, it doesn't.
But it won't, anyway.
Yeah.
It won't.
Everybody will do what fits them.
But the book itself, for example, the Earthship that I downloaded illegally,
yeah.
and I read through, gives a lot of very interesting principles. And you can just pick whatever you want in it. It's just like a takeaway for you, and then you can build your own idea, your own concept out of it.
In communication with where you are.
Well, this is what's important, the spirit of the place. You know, and this is where I would gravitate towards what's existing, which is stone. In fact, I just heard of there's a dry stack stone building workshop in Rethymno this summer that I'm going to go to. Yeah. I'm sure many of you have been in the Cycladic Islands and seen those walls that whoever built those, whoever started, they didn't see the end. You know, it's like generations of people, and it's just like this amazing, you know.
And they're still there.
And they're still there, earthquakes and all. Yeah. They're beautiful. Yeah. So. But I think beauty matters. You know, beauty really matters. And that's why I think we put art on the wall. And that's why we listen to good music or something. So I think just doing something handmade and where you're invested in it and making it beautiful is worth the effort. You know.
So after building one Earthship, would you build another Earthship?
You know, kind of sarcastically, I've always said no. You'd build one Earthship in your life.
It's so much work.
It's so much work. But we built this huge thing, you know. If you guys said you wanted to build a hut, I would love to volunteer. I would volunteer for that.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
My idea is, from what I've seen, is that some methods, like using wood for the structure of
the roof.
For the structure of the building, so that
Yeah.
it holds it up.
Yeah.
And then using straw balls.
Yeah. Just so you know, I'm not a fan of straw bale at all. Zero. Because all buildings, it's not a question of if, it's when it leaks. Buildings will leak at some point. And if you have straw back there and it leaks, you're screwed.
It will rot.
It'll rot, you'll have mold. Mice are the most ingenious creatures. Somehow they figure out to get in there. I don't know, going through the socket or something. I've heard nothing but nightmare stories on old straw bale. New straw bales, everyone feels great about. Find me an old one, and you're going to hear about nightmare stories.
So you think the good processes are the ones that are using earth?
Earth, stone, earth and stone. Yeah.
Or what about the ones that have like logs, piece of wood, or like bottles and, and mortar all around?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. The bottles, it's recycled. I love them. And making them, you know, you get a tile saw and you cut the bottle and then you tape it together so you have a butt on both ends. That's how you manufacture those bottles, and then you have light coming through. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's very resistant to the bottles.
Yeah, it's glass.
Into this film, I don't know if you saw it in French, it's Les dieux sont tombés sur la tête, the gods.
Oh, yeah.
You saw it?
Yeah, with the bottle. Yeah, they can't break it, yeah.
The Coca-Cola bottle, it's a very good film.
Yeah. No, a wine bottle is heavy duty. Yeah. And you make bricks. And again, it takes time. But it's worth it. Yeah. You know, like our solar panels, just as an example, on people would immediately say, oh, how much did that cost? And it's like, I forget what it was, $8,000. Well, how long will it take till it pays for itself? And I said, it paid for itself on day one. You know, because obviously the way we're making calculations as a species doesn't make sense. But if you do things because it's the right thing to do, then it's paid for on day one. You know, I don't know. But I prefer doing things that are sweat equity, that you can do yourself and you add value by doing it yourself. You know. Yeah.
Can I ask two more things?
Yeah.
The first is concerning the humidity.
Yeah.
And then thinking also of grit and the kind of storm that exists here, because also probably here every week, that it after a time it soaks up the humidity from the ground.
Yeah.
So how have you found the house to be breathable? Because especially if you're in the ground, you take in the humidity, and also what about the floor? The first is that with the humidity, and the second is the communication with the plant species you have in front of this big window.
Yeah.
You said you had to take down your lemon tree.
Yeah.
In my mind, the longevity of something, how long it can last, is also about the tree. So I cannot take down the tree.
Yeah.
For me, it's
yeah.
2 years. How can you coexist with plant creatures that also give you all the oxygen and you exchange, but that will not feel suffocated at a point and you will have to cut them down. How was this experience for you with the plants?
Yeah. Well, what I'd say, like, first of all, like fig trees are ideal because figs, you really prune them down and then they grow. And that's where you get the figs anyways, is by pruning. You know, the lemon tree, why did we get...
We had 2 lemon trees, but I really don't remember why.
Well, one grew, it was too big.
But that you can keep pruning also, to keep it at, the size you want. But I don't remember why you got rid of it.
Maybe they're too dense, because lemon trees can be very dense, we won't be letting in any light.
Well, we were trying to have less light.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, right now...
Why did you take them out?
We have a, like they put in the ground for pouring a slab, the 6x6 metal grid. We have a big chunk of that hanging and a bougainvillea plant growing. So it's creating like this flower patch on our windows. The tenants who live in there are doing that. Everything kind of changes with the people who are living there,
Yeah, but I think for the moisture, I think you can also build an earthship
above ground.
Above ground. In New Mexico, it's super dry.
Yeah, we don't have that problem.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking for creek.
But I'm curious, I really don't know that, but is it humidity from rainfall or just natural occurring humidity?
I believe it depends on the area.
Because with the Earthship, when you're building the berms, they're using pond liner now, heavy duty plastic. And you sculpt everything so that when it rains, you're either collecting the water or it's going far away from your walls. 20, 25 feet away from your walls. So yeah, you have to sculpt it so that moisture isn't coming to the building.
I'm wondering, the kind of forms effect, if you can avoid it, so you can be grounded all the time in your house, whatever you're doing, you have to be inside, and if you put plastic,
yeah,
you no longer ground.
No, I see what you're saying, yeah.
It's a question I'm not expecting to be.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. The other thing too is ventilation. Like in the new Earthships, they're burying 12-inch pipe and bringing it right into the building so that air flows through and it cools down on the way in. It's like and then you have, well, I'd say even our Earthship, it's about air circulation too. We have skylights that open, and if you open high, heat rises and it goes out, and it's pulling air from down low. So that helps aerate humidity as well.
What I can say about the humidity increase, I used to live in a house inside the village of Aluminium. And every single year we had to treat the mold in the walls. It was coming from the bottom. So it was rising from the earth, basically.
Okay, so it is.
It was straight on the stones. The house was built straight on the stones, and I think that there's a lot of water infiltration in the ground here.
Okay.
So I don't think it's coming from the rain, because we have less and less rain every year on the way. It's something coming from the ground, and the fact that a lot of villages are built with the houses on the top of each other, so the water is just accumulating in the ground.
Yeah.
And then it's just rising up at some point. And we had so many problems of infiltration, but you could see really the root was coming from the bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a real problem.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, it's a real problem.
And as well, a lot of the stone in Crete is limestone.
Yeah.
So, and that's quite...
Yeah.
It sucks. It's like a sponge.
Yeah, like a sponge.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I don't know the terrain here, but but people have been living here for thousands of years. Somebody should know what's going on. Yeah. So I'm curious, does that house have good ventilation?
This house, it had a good ventilation, but still we were struggling everywhere. We had to treat the salpeter, the mold, and it was getting really, really moldy inside. And
Yeah.
there was lots of windows. I was keeping it open the whole winter.
Yeah.
Nothing would do it.
Nothing would do it. Huh.
Hi guys. Hope you enjoy your time here.
Yeah.
Anyway, if there might be more questions. I just want to say a big thank you to you.
Oh yeah, well thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
At the bottom of our house.
Oh, sweet.
I wanted to tell you the house you built is so fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
It's so artistic and beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, we had Mike coming to that house finally because we organized a seminar for people to know about alternative buildings, and we invited him. So he came and we invited him in the house, and his wife was with him. So they both came in the house and he sat at the table.
The first seat he could find, like he sat down.
And then his wife started to, I told her, yeah, go walk around. She walked around and she was like, wow. And then she finally came back.
No, she was going, hey Mike, come check this out.
He wouldn't move.
He wouldn't get out of his chair. He was just planted there.
He refused to go, but
He is a character.
He is.
yeah.
But he's also a pioneer. He's also someone who is forward thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're big people.
Yeah, of course.
Which is getting better, you know.
It's mellowing.
It's mellowing out.
And Paul has been working on you can speak about your book also, the portraits you've been doing.
Yeah, Tao's portraits. I've been photographing portraits of artists for the past 35 years and just published my second book. Mike is in both of them. I think he's one of my biggest heroes. And his wife, Chris, wrote the stories about him. And it's great. In book one, she talked about one of their first dates going on a camping trip with Mike. And he shows up with a hatchet, an axe, and a sleeping bag or something. And she's going, what am I going with this guy? And it turns out the hatchet came in handy. But in the second book, she writes about he's a hummer. He hums while he works, and it drives everybody nuts. He'll be humming like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, you know. And then she talks about sightings, like, because they travel all over the world. And invariably people go, oh, there's Mike Reynolds. And they'll come up and ask for a photo. And I can't believe it. The last time I was in Taos, I'll show you the photo, I did the same thing. You know, I ran into him in a restaurant. I was having lunch with a friend, and then he and his wife were, and I said, Mike, can I do a selfie with you?